My name is Rachel Moore and I'm 32 years old. Before I begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a lesson about what happens when the people you trust most turn your world into ashes. I moved back to Plano, Texas 3 months ago. The kind of suburb where lawns are trimmed to perfection, where smiles are polite but hollow, and where everyone knows who's sleeping with who, even before it makes it to the group chat. The moving truck pulled up just before sunrise. I stood in the driveway holding my coffee, staring at the white 2-story house across the street. The one with the blue shutters and the rose bushes I used to admire. The house that used to be ours. That's where Ethan lives now, my ex-husband. And with him, Lila, my best friend since college. The world didn't end in flames when I caught them. It ended in silence. It was an ordinary Thursday afternoon when I came home early and saw them in our bed. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, frozen, while Ethan stammered something about, "It just happened." Lila couldn't even look me in the eyes. That night, I packed a bag and left. I didn't fight for the house, didn't argue about who got what. Ethan said he'd buy me out, and I said fine. I didn't want a single memory left of the life they stole from me. But memories don't vanish. They rot and grow teeth. 3 months later, I found the listing for the property next door to theirs, a smaller, neglected home that needed work. The irony made me laugh out loud. I told the agent I'd pay in cash. Now, as the movers unloaded boxes, I watched Lila step out onto her porch in a silk robe. She froze when she saw me. The mug in her hand trembled. Ethan came out behind her, shirtless, that same stupid grin he used to wear when he thought he was charming. "Rachel?" Lila's voice cracked like a dry twig. "What are you doing here?" I smiled, steady and calm. "Just moving in. Thought it'd be nice to be neighbors again." Ethan's jaw tightened. Lila forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That's unexpected." "Oh, life's full of surprises," I said. They watched me for a few seconds, whispering something to each other before slipping back inside. I could feel their tension from across the yard, thick and heavy like Texas humidity. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine, staring at the glow of their living room. I could see shadows moving, silhouettes that used to feel familiar. I wondered if Lila ever thought about the years we shared. Sleepovers, late-night confessions, how I helped her through her breakups. And Ethan. He was my husband for 12 years. We built a life, dreams, plans for kids we never had. I thought we were happy. I thought I was enough. But now, watching them laugh through the window, I realized something. People like them never feel guilt. Not really. They move on, rebuild, rewrite history until they're the victims. I took another sip of wine and smiled. The night was quiet except for the crickets and the distant hum of sprinklers. But in that silence, I made a quiet promise to myself. I wasn't here to beg or to forgive. I was here to watch, to wait. And soon, they'd know what it feels like to lose everything they thought was safe. As the porch light flickered, I looked at their window one last time before whispering to the darkness, "Welcome home, Rachel." The first week, I kept my distance. I didn't want to seem intrusive, just the friendly new neighbor trying to settle in. Plano is the kind of place where everyone waves, but no one really means it. Smiles are a form of surveillance here. Every morning I'd see Ethan jogging past my house with that same gray hoodie he used to wear back when we were married. Sometimes he'd glance at me, sometimes he wouldn't. Lila, on the other hand, avoided me completely. She started walking their dog on a different route, like she couldn't bear to cross my driveway. That suited me just fine. I spent my days repainting walls, trimming hedges, and cleaning up the neglected garden. The woman who lived here before was elderly, and she'd let the place go. The work gave me something to focus on, something to control. At night, I'd sit on the porch with my wine again, pretending not to notice the way their curtains always seemed to twitch when I did. About 2 weeks later, I baked a pie. Blueberry, Lila's favorite. I carried it next door like any polite neighbor would. When she opened the door, her smile was stiff. Her hair was messy, and there were faint lines under her eyes. "Hi, Lila," I said sweetly. Thought I'd bring something over. Welcome from next door. She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the doorframe. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, I said. We're neighbors now. It'd be weird not to be friendly, right? Ethan appeared behind her. Hey, Rachel, that's thoughtful of you. His voice carried that familiar note of caution, the same tone he used when he didn't know what I might do next. I smiled, held out the pie. Enjoy. They both thanked me, awkwardly, and I turned to leave. But as I walked back down the steps, I caught a glimpse of Lila through the reflection on their glass door, whispering to Ethan, her face tense. That night, I heard them arguing. The walls were close enough that if I opened my window, I could catch fragments, sharp words, raised voices, and the kind of silence that follows when one person walks out of the room. I didn't smile, not yet. The next morning, I mowed my lawn early, deliberately early. The noise must have woken them. Lila came out in a robe, glaring at me. Could you not do that at 7 a.m? She snapped. I killed the engine and looked up. Oh, sorry. Just trying to keep up with the neighborhood standards. Didn't mean to bother you. Her eyes darted to Ethan, who had stepped outside behind her. I caught the flicker of guilt on his face before he turned away. For the next few days, I let the tension breathe. Little things. A friendly wave when I saw them leaving, an innocent question about the garbage pickup schedule, even a short chat with one of their friends who didn't know our history. By the end of the month, whispers had started to spread, the kind that slipped through phone calls and backyard fences. Someone told me Lila had been seen crying at Target. Someone else mentioned Ethan was spending more time at the gym. I didn't start the rumors. I just didn't stop them. One evening, as I was watering the flowers near the fence we shared, Ethan came over. He stood there for a while before saying, "You really didn't have to move here, Rachel. Don't you think this is unhealthy?" I turned off the hose, water dripping from my hand. Unhealthy? You mean like cheating on your wife with her best friend? He froze, his jaw tightening. We made mistakes. We're trying to move on. Then move, I said quietly. No one's stopping you. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked back to his house. That night, Lila didn't turn on the lights until well after 10. When she finally did, I saw her through the blinds, sitting alone on the couch, head in her hands. Ethan wasn't home. I leaned against the window frame, the glow of my porch light reflecting faintly on the glass. Things were starting to shift, tiny cracks forming in their perfect little life. And all I had to do was stand next door and watch. By midsummer, I'd become something of a fixture in the neighborhood. Everyone knew the new woman at 214 Birch Lane, friendly, polite, always waving, always offering to help. I joined the local garden club, attended Sunday cookouts, even hosted a small wine night for the ladies on the block. It was all harmless, on the surface. People here talk. They don't mean to gossip. It's just the air they breathe. And all I had to do was plant seeds, small, casual comments that grew into something else entirely. "Oh, I'm still adjusting," I'd tell them when someone asked how I liked the neighborhood. "It's just a little awkward living next to my ex-husband and his wife, but I'm fine." Then I'd smile, soft and forgiving, like someone trying to rise above the pain. I didn't need to say more. Their faces would do the rest. Surprise, pity, then curiosity. By the end of that week, everyone in our cul-de-sac knew. I could feel it spreading, the way neighbors started glancing at Lila's house, the way conversations fell quiet when she walked by. She tried to keep up appearances, but her smile had turned brittle. At one of the weekend gatherings, Mrs. Callahan from across the street leaned toward me and whispered, "I can't imagine how you do it, dear, living next to them like nothing happened." I gave a sad little shrug. I just try to focus on peace. Holding grudges doesn't fix anything. That night, I caught sight of Lila and Ethan through their kitchen window. They were arguing again, louder this time. She slammed a glass on the counter. He shouted something, and she pushed him away. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Later that week, I started noticing small changes. Lila had stopped attending the morning yoga classes she used to brag about. Her friends from the community group stopped coming around. When she did go out, people nodded politely, but didn't linger. The neighborhood had turned, and I never raised my voice once. One afternoon, while I was watering the front yard, Ethan came home from work. He slowed his truck near my driveway, rolled down the window and said, "You think you're clever, don't you?" I looked up. "I'm just living my life, Ethan." He shook his head. "You've been spreading lies. People are treating Lila like trash." "Lies?" I asked softly. "You married your mistress. What part of that's a lie?" He clenched his jaw, then sped off. The engine roared, tires screeching against the quiet street. That evening, I was sitting on the porch when Lila appeared at the edge of my lawn. She looked tired, eyes swollen, hair tied up carelessly. "Rachel," she said, voice trembling, "can we talk?" I gestured toward the porch chair across from me. "Of course." She sat, staring down at her hands. "I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But this," she motioned between our houses, "this isn't fair." "Fair?" I repeated, keeping my tone calm. "Was it fair when you smiled at me every weekend while sleeping with my husband?" She flinched. "I didn't plan for it to happen that way. Ethan and I—" "Don't," I said sharply. Then softer, "You two made choices. Now you get to live with them." Her lips quivered. "You've turned everyone against me." I tilted my head, meeting her gaze. "I didn't turn anyone. People see what they want to see. Maybe they're just seeing the truth." She stood abruptly, tears filling her eyes. "You're cruel, Rachel." "Maybe," I said, "but you taught me how to be." She walked away quickly, her steps uneven, her shoulders shaking. I watched her until she disappeared inside. The next morning, there was a for sale sign on their lawn. I laughed under my breath. But by evening it was gone. Maybe Ethan had talked her out of it. Maybe he still believed they could fix this. As the sun went down, I sat in the dim light of my living room, the faint hum of the ceiling fan blending with the distant sound of sprinklers. I should have felt victorious, but instead, I felt something heavier, a quiet ache that wouldn't leave. Maybe because deep down, I remembered who Lila used to be, how she once held my hand through heartbreaks, how she made me laugh until my stomach hurt. But that woman was gone. The one who lived next door now was just a reflection, broken, hollow, and slowly unraveling. And I was the mirror she had to face every single day. The air turned cooler as fall rolled into Plano. The leaves along Birch Lane shifted from green to burnt orange, littering the sidewalks in crisp silence. By then, 3 months had passed since I moved in. 3 long months of quiet tension, polite smiles, and sleepless nights. Lila and Ethan's house no longer looked like a happy home. The rose bushes had withered. The blinds stayed closed even during the day. Sometimes I'd hear shouting from behind their walls, followed by long, heavy silences. The whispers around the neighborhood had grown bolder too. I never repeated them. I didn't need to. People did it for me. One morning, while leaving for groceries, I found Lila sitting in her car, parked halfway down the street. She looked lost, pale skin, hair unbrushed, staring at nothing. When she saw me, she quickly started the engine and drove off. I stood there watching the taillights fade, and for a moment, I wondered if this was what victory was supposed to feel like. Because if it was, it didn't feel good. That evening, Ethan came knocking, hard. I opened the door to find him standing there, face tense, eyes bloodshot. "You need to stop," he said. "Stop what?" "Whatever this is, Rachel. You've poisoned her. She barely eats. She doesn't sleep. Every day she's crying, saying she feels trapped in her own home." His voice cracked. "Are you happy now?" I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I once thought I'd grow old with. His charm, his certainty, his pride, all gone. "She trapped herself," I said quietly. "You both did." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "You used to be better than this." "Maybe I was," I said, but you made sure that woman didn't survive." He shook his head and turned away, muttering something under his breath before walking back to his house. Hours later, I was in bed when I heard it. A crash, then muffled shouting. I looked out the window. Their living room light flickered, then went dark. I hesitated for a moment before slipping on a robe and stepping outside. The air was cold and sharp. From their porch, I could hear crying. I thought about knocking, about ending it, but I didn't. I stood there in the dark, watching their shadows move behind the curtains. Whatever was happening inside wasn't mine to stop. The next morning, a police car sat in their driveway. I froze halfway down my porch steps. 2 officers were talking to Ethan on the front lawn. Lila wasn't there. Later, I learned she'd left before dawn, packed a suitcase, drove off without saying a word. No one knew where she went. Ethan stayed for a few weeks after that, but eventually the house went up for sale again. The for sale sign returned. This time, it stayed. By winter, the place was empty, and just like that, the street was quiet again. Sometimes, when I walk past their old yard, I remember the sound of Lila's laughter echoing through the open windows, the smell of barbecue on summer nights, the way Ethan used to wave at me when he pulled into the driveway, before everything changed. I thought I'd feel peace once they were gone. But peace doesn't come from someone else's suffering. It comes from acceptance. And I wasn't there yet. Still, one evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on my porch, watching the sunset paint the neighborhood gold. The house next door stood empty, dark and silent, like a monument to everything that had burned quietly between us. I raised my glass slightly, whispering to no one in particular, to moving on. Then I smiled, faint but real, because in the end, I didn't need to destroy them. They destroyed themselves.